concerned me, I've raised here. Maybe Mr. Malcolm has something else to say, but those are the vital issues that I mentioned here now. Thank you.
Right, let's deal with Mr. Markham.
Thank you.
Mr. Markham, what is your full name?
Kenneth Malcolm, sir.
And do you have any objection to taking the oath?
No, sir, no objections.
Do you swear that raise your right hand? Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God.
So help me God.
You've heard the evidence of Mr. Simmons. Is there anything you want to add to it?
Yes, sir. I'd just like to add that since the days of the Sports Commission, those are many years ago, we have been trying to unify these organizations. But every time when a new president arises from the IFB, then something gets shoved in the wheel. I've got a full report that I will be giving to the Commission there with signatures of unification meetings that we had at Lake, that the presidents signed the interim constitution that we have set up and put together. All the presidents have to sign, and the signatures are there with the dates right there. And up till today, even the last meeting that we had now, when was that? Last year, 2017, when Mrs. Meryl King chaired the meeting, the minutes, we could not get the minutes. And eventually, when the minutes came and arrived, it was not a true reflection of what was discussed and agreed in the minutes. And the same thing happened prior to that, about, I think, 2015, when we had a meeting with IFBB, so-called Bodybuilding South Africa, in Pretoria, at Wayne Price's gym. The same thing happened. What happened there, we tried to get the minutes from Wayne's wife. But in the meantime, because of our experience, we normally take our own minutes and we make our own notes. So up to this date, that minutes we still haven't received. But coming back to the last meeting again that we had at SASCOC, we were very disappointed in coming to meet a husband and wife national delegation with a full delegation of South African Natural Bodybuilding Association.
Let's just take it slowly. You got a minute supposedly of the meeting that Miss King chaired. Is that right?
Yes, we got.
And according to you, that minute doesn't reflect what happened.
Yes.
You have your own minute of what happened.
Yes.
And that doesn't tie up or correspond to Miss King's minute.
No, it does not.
Do we have a copy of both of these minutes?
Yes, sir. I will just check in that file if I have a copy, or otherwise we don't have a copy.
Perhaps you could let Mr. Bossoff have a copy of both minutes.
Yes.
As I said earlier, we're going to hear from Miss King. She's giving evidence, and no doubt the first thing we're going to put to her is these minutes.
Yes.
So I'd like her then to explain what her minute, why it differs or doesn't differ. Have you heard anything from a gentleman called Mr. Sam?
No.
Not a word.
Sir,
Do you know who he is?
I know Mr. Gideon Sam is the president of SASCOC.
Have you had any dealings with him?
No, sir.
Nothing.
I think what we did, our organization did, we tried to exhaust first all the avenues before trying to get there, because we do not want to overstep any person in that position.
He seems to be in the background.
Yes.
All right. Is there anything?
And so just another point as well, I'd also like to make. At that meeting of Mrs. King. An interim committee was, so to say, launched there, which I have on my camera here, the photo that was taken of that interim committee. I can also send the photograph.
Please. Good.
Mr. Wayne Price was not too impressed when we had to take a photo and everything was discussed. And then we were given till the 15th of July to set up our interim structure and come forward, and the committee. But up till today, they have failed us. And we, South African Natural Bodybuilding, as I say, we have been training the masses from our underprivileged communities for many, many years. And right up till today, our organization and our youngsters are still training in the backyards, are still training in the shanties, and we still look after them. Whereas our youngsters cannot afford a 400 and a 500 rand per month at the big Virgin Actives where these guys are training.
Thank you. So anything you want to say?
Just in terms of the minutes, is there communication between your organization and SASCOC about the gaps in Ms. King's minutes?
Yes, I think Mr. Jacobs, or Mr.
Yes, there was a letter.
There was-
Letter was sent back to
When did you say a letter was sent?
And when was that?
Perhaps you did send a letter, and did you have any response to the letter?
We have the item here, we have got a letter here where
When did you send the letter?
July.
What?
This one after the meeting that we had with it. This one where
Did you complain about the minutes?
where we responded to the letter that Merrill.
Right, so
This
when
is
was
the-
that?
this
No,
is the-
but it's a specific question. In relation to the minutes and your complaint today that the minutes are not a true reflection of your discussions, did you complain about those minutes to SASCOC?
Yes.
Yes.
And when
Did
was
you
that?
get this from the meeting? Witness.
Sorry.
You
I
heard
don't
this?
have the exact date, but we did respond.
Let me just get it from the minutes.
Yes.
Okay, wait.
All our correspondence is done through our
Secretary.
None of this is on the record. Did you get a response to the complaint about the minutes?
Yes, we did, yeah.
Please, did you hear what he said?
Yes,
Is that
yes,
correct?
Yes.
Good. And what did you then do? Did you hear any more?
No, nothing
Not
after
on
that, sir.
Okay.
Nothing after that.
Thank you very much. Dr. Bacher? No questions. Thank you. You're excused.
Thank you.
Right, where do we go from here? You want to deal with the wrestling now? Or what do you want to do? All right. Please, if you could give Mr. Bossoff a copy of that letter. Right, now, where is Mr. Wrestler? What is the
It's in the
wrestler?
first file, the second one, I think.
Sorry, sorry, it's not in the first one.
It's just after Robin Lewis. Oh no, this is the act. This is what file is that? There, B.
Right. Where is Mr. Willie Meyer? Is he here? Mr. Meyer, what is your full name, please?
Willem Viljoen Meyer.
Do you have any objection to taking the oath? Would you please raise your right hand? Do you swear the evidence that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God. Right. You may be seated if you like, or stand, whatever it is. What is your position in wrestling?
At this point in time, I'm the president of a local club called Menlo Park Wrestling Club.
And you've given us some writing about the affairs of your organization and SASCOC, and I'd like you just to highlight what you say I'd like you just to highlight what you say about SASCOC. What's the problem?
The main problem is that there is a lack of communication and decision making
I think you've got to talk into this microphone. We don't have a stenographer and what we've got. Yeah.
I'm saying that there is a lack of communication between decision making and the time when SASCOC is actually making decisions in collaboration with Wrestling South Africa.
Sorry, I thought I'd switch this on. Hello? 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 What?
Why don't you bring this a bit closer to you?
Yes?
It
Yes.
shouldn't be in your face.
Yes, I can't deal with it now. Could you please write to me by email? Yes, you've got my email address. I'm terribly sorry.
President Zuma, don't worry.
I've switched it off. No, he's resigned. I'm sorry, Mr. Lowe. You say that you complained to SASCOC. Who did you deal with at SASCOC?
No, I did not complain to SASCOC. What I'm saying is that they make selection criteria for the Olympic Games without consulting us at lower level that adversely impact and affect the wrestlers at grassroots level.
Obviously, wrestling, even I know, is an Olympic sport, is that right?
That's correct, sir.
And it's very important that you have recognition from the Olympic body.
That's correct, sir.
What was the complaint about?
The complaint is that SASCOC and Wrestling South Africa unilaterally decided, without consultation of their members, to not allow the Africa Oceanians Championship as a qualifying tournament. That is but one. By doing so, they then broke the 5 rings of the Olympic Committee at the Olympic insignia, because the 5 rings actually represent the various continents of the world. And from that perspective, means that South Africa is excluded out of that 5 rings. So from a wrestling perspective, it was not a true reflection of what needs to happen.
Come back to it. Who did you deal with at SASCOC? Who did you address this question to?
You are not allowed to speak to SASCOC directly. You need to work via Wrestling South Africa, and they don't give you a chance to deal with SASCOC.
So you didn't go directly to SASCOC?
No.
Who did you go to?
I raised it via the Northern Gauteng Wrestling Federation as well as Wrestling South Africa.
Wrestling South Africa.
Saki Bossa.
So the complaint really is that they didn't raise it with SASCOC.
I don't know whether they raised it or not, but we've raised it.
As you may have obviously observed, we're looking at the affairs of SASCOC as to whether they've done their work or they haven't done their work. We've never been asked to look at the affairs of the Wrestling Federation, whether they don't behave themselves or not. Maybe they need a special commission. But that's your complaint.
No, let me just elaborate a little bit more. My complaint is that SASCOC actually do not adhere to the IOC.
SASCOC?
SASCOC correctly, yes.
Who did you complain to there at SASCOC?
I did not.
How do they know there's a complaint?
I don't know whether they actually did speak to SASCOC, but they came back and says that is the rules from SASCOC. Mr. Saki Bossa.
From the Wrestling Federation?
From the Wrestling Federation.
And he said what? They've heard nothing from SASCOC?
No, they agreed that we cannot utilize the African Oceanians Championship as a qualifying tournament.
I'm sorry. Is your complaint then with the Wrestling Federation?
My complaint is that SASCOC did not adhere to the Olympic Charter.
That is a complaint.
So I could not raise it with him because they do not allow you to speak directly to SASCOC.
I'm sorry then, I really don't understand what we can do about it. If you're dealing with another body that you have to deal with and you complain to them and they don't deal with it, then the complaint rests with them. Surely SASCOC is going to tell us, if we ever get to them, that they've never heard anything from you.
certainly, sir, it is common knowledge that SASCOC should adhere to the Olympic Charter
How do they know that?
because they actually put it in the constitution that they are subject
But
to...
who says they didn't deal with it? I'm sorry, I think we're complete cross purposes. If I complain about the post office and I go to the revenue service, they'll say to me, we don't deal with the post office, go directly to them. Am I wrong?
It is from my perspective, sir, that it is that SASCOC know what they should be doing. In terms
Why?
of
How do
their
they know?
constitution, in terms of their own constitution.
Yes, there's a lot of things in their constitution.
And they did not adhere to their own constitution
Why do you say that?
because they excluded the wrestling team out of the possibility to
But
participate.
then why didn't you go and complain to them?
To who? To SASCOC.
Yes.
You're not allowed to complain to SASCOC. I raise an issue in terms of SASCOC not adhering to the International Olympic Committee rules and regulations.
So you expected the International Federation to deal with it? Is that right?
It is, to my mind, why I'm here, sir, is that I want to raise the flag that SASCOC did not adhere to the
Yes,
regulations.
because you raised it with some other body. Am I wrong? I may have it wrong, I don't know.
But certainly, says they should know what their rules is. Now I bring it to your attention
You
that
have
they
any
don't...
writing where you complained to the Wrestling Federation.
Yes, I did. I do have. I will submit
I
that.
wonder if you have a copy of that, perhaps you give that to Mr. Bosso.
I can supply that to you.
And you say you had a reply saying that they're not going to assist you. Is that the effect of it?
They said that they were not allowed to participate in the African Oceania Championships.
They dismissed your complaint.
That's correct, yes. And then we asked if we can participate in the rest of the qualifying tournaments in terms of the system that is put in place by the IOC. They also said no, they've got their own criteria and you need to fulfill their criteria prior to you can go and participate. We did submit a complaint. And we even asked them, begged them actually to enroll the team who qualified in the trials, to send them all to the qualifying tournaments, but they still refused.
Right. Is there anything you want to ask?
Mr. Mayor, did the Wrestling Federation raise this with SASCOC? Do you know for sure?
They always said that, yeah, it is, we've discussed it with SASCOC, and that is the rules of SASCOC, and you will not be able to change it.
And did you ask for a copy of the minutes of that discussion?
No, I did not.
So you don't know for sure whether the Wrestling Federation raised it?
I don't
And the
know.
Wrestling Federation hasn't submitted any representations to us?
Yeah, I don't have it.
Thank you.
They actually asked me not to speak to SASCOC and to raise issues with SASCOC because then wrestling will become in disrepute.
Thank you. Two questions. World Athletics. If South African athletes want to participate in Olympic Games, I'm sure I'm right that the International Olympic Athletic Body, they lay down criteria. Say it's 100 meters. If you're over, for example, 10 seconds, whatever, you're not eligible. If you're under, you are eligible. Is that correct? Swimming's the same.
You're talking about athletes?
I'm trying to come to a parallel. Similarly in swimming. You know, SASCOC, in my opinion, in those sports, don't determine whether you can participate or not. It's your times. It goes to the world body, and they say, listen, you're under or you're over, you can participate. I'm sure that's right. Is it the same with your sport?
Mr. Bacher, yes, I assume that it is the case within swimming. And I can...
What I want to know is, do SASCOC or the international body determine the criteria for our sportsmen to participate in the Olympics?
First of all, the IOC, International Olympic Committee, the Executive Board, sign off a set of criteria that you need to fulfill to be able to participate in the Olympic Games. I will hand my document to
So why then are you criticizing SASCOC if they set the criteria?
Because SASCOC did not adhere to it. I can show you where
What do you mean they didn't adhere to it?
they excluded Africa Oceanius. SASCOC excluded Africa Oceanius while it's in the document stating that is the qualifying
Let me put it in a
tournament.
simple way. Where some of your athletes, call them, should they have gone to the Olympics because they did adhere to the criteria set by the international body? Yes or no?
They could not go because they could not go and wrestle there.
But were they eligible on the criteria set by the Olympic body?
I cannot say that because it's not like they did ran 100 meters in 9.5 seconds. They, to be able to qualify, they need to go to certain wrestling tournaments. Now the process is that they need to wrestle a wrestle off, and the guy that wins actually are being absorbed into a team. Now that team was not allowed to go to the African Oceanius Championship because SASCOC said, no, you cannot go. And I've got a memorandum of agreement where SASCOC actually signed the document, gave it to our president. He signed it, I think 4 days later.
They were not allowed to go to the Africa tournament. Is that right?
Pardon?
They were not allowed to go to the Africa tournament.
To the Oceanius, Africa Oceanius Olympic qualifying tournament.
But why?
I don't know.
But why?
That's why I'm here for.
So you don't know?
I don't know.
Nobody
because
ever told you?
They just said that SASCOC has decided that that is not a tournament. On a sort of on a general meeting, it was decided that they cannot go. And I'm saying they are not allowed, in terms of the International Olympic Committee's charter, that they're not allowed to make such a
But they never
decision.
explained to you why?
No.
Okay, that's all right. The second point I want to know is, it's coming across here, entree to SASCOC. I mean, they've got a big body, a lot of full-time people. Are you telling me possible to get an appointment, an appropriate time, and sit down there with somebody and say, listen, please explain to it? Is that not possible?
It is maybe possible, but you're not allowed to do it in terms of the wrestling rules and governance.
Determined by who?
By Wrestling South Africa.
You're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to speak to them directly.
You mean it's got to go to the national body and only they can go to SASCOC?
And no, they will allow you, if they think fit, then they will allow you. They act like, yeah, I don't want to go there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, you're excused.
Thank you very much.
Right, where do we go from here? Is this your sensitive lady?
No, there's Mr. Reddy first.
That's not the lady who's been dismissed.
No.
Another lady.
Volleyball.
Oh, yes. All right. Where's Mr. Volleyball ready?
So yes, it's actually Mrs. Gurda.
What?
Mrs. Gurda is next.
Who?
He's a week Gurda.
Yes, now I'm going to deal with that later. Mr. Reddy, yes. Mr. Reddy, what is your full name, please? Didn't look like Mr. Reddy. You, Mr. Reddy,
Yes, I am.
would you please state your full name?
It's Kribananda Reddy.
Right, do you have any objection to taking the oath?
No, I don't.
Do you swear that the evidence that you raise your right hand, do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God.
So help me God.
You may be seated if you like. The name Reddy comes
That's
up
correct.
somewhere else. There's another Mr. Reddy who was dismissed. That's not you.
No.
You're the bodybuilding Reddy. Okay.
No, volleyball.
Right, volleyball. Sorry, we're ready to deal with you. Where is this Mr. Reddy story?
So it's in there, but it's not, it's Mr. Mabeka's.
Suspension of Mr. Tubby Reddy and Mr. Maharaj?
No.
Uh,
The constitution of SASCOC allowed for the election of National Federation people on their board only, not people from the confederations. However, this clause was ignored, and an explanation was given by two senior counsel saying that nobody else besides national federations can put forward nominations for election. But at the AGM, this was ignored.
Who was that senior counsel? Yeah, so you just clarify this. The confederation, what's the complaint? The volleyball confederation did what?
What we are complaining about is the constitution of SASCOC being disregarded and allowing an election to go ahead that didn't comply with the constitution. That was the first one.
In what regard?
The constitution of SASCOC allowed for national federation people only to be elected. However, there were nominations from confederations. The confederation is to give you a simple explanation, is a mini SASCOC from the provinces.
That's the first objection. So they ignored that.
They ignored that, and they ignored the advice of two senior counsel.
Who was the senior counsel?
Chair, I often do not know the names, but I can get it.
Get a written advice.
Yes, they did.
And we got them. I think we apparently got these representatives. All right, now let's come back to what's the next complaint against SASCOC.
The amount of money that was disclosed in Parliament regarding the expenses leading up to the disciplinary action was 2.9 million, according to the submission made by SASCOC in Parliament. But in fact, it's actually much more than that. Something to the effect of about 6.2 million.
Where's the balance?
We don't know.
There's a suggestion that that's been...
No, it probably is misrepresented to Parliament by SASCOC.
So you say it should be more than 2.9?
The actual amount spent from what we know now is 6.2 million rand. But what was represented to Parliament was 2.9 million rand. And what we are saying is that it was a misrepresentation of the facts to Parliament by SASCOC board. Yeah.
So they should have said we spent 6 million.
Yes.
In fact, they said we spent 2 million.
Yes. On the disciplinary proceedings that took place regarding the dismissal of the officials. Yes.
Are you complaining about that as well?
No, I am complaining about the fact that it is, to me, firstly, it was misrepresentation in Parliament. Secondly, a high amount of money of that nature being spent on matters that could have been handled differently. And in fact, it's money that could have been used for athletes, for athlete preparation, and generally for athletes in the country.
Dismissing Reddy and Maharaj.
Sorry?
They spent it on the dismissal of Reddy and Mr. Maharaj.
Yes.
And you say they shouldn't have done that.
No, I'm saying that that matter could have been handled differently.
By doing what?
They could have had the internal processes done, because it's as an HR matter, it could have been handled differently.
Instead of which, they spent the money and dismissed these people.
Yes, and we still don't know
they
the
shouldn't have
outcome.
spent the money, but you don't complain about the dismissal.
I haven't come to that yet.
Well, all right, let's come to it.
Okay. Then the other aspect I am saying is that the entire dismissal and or evidence, etc., as a trial by media, we do not believe it should be in that manner. So it should not have been in that manner. It's an HR function and it should be handled as an HR matter. Furthermore, there was an issue that was handled in the media in terms of sexual harassment, which is a serious matter and we consider it very seriously on the one hand. and it should be done, they're handled internally before being made public. To add to that, there was a statement by the president of SASCOC saying that that matter has been dismissed. There was not enough substance, and he's therefore dismissed it.
Is that in relation to Miss Kelly?
No.
What is Miss Kelly all about?
I am not sure. It was some matter that was related between Ms. Kelly, Mr. Reddy, and Mr. Maharaj in terms of the disciplinary.
Anything about that?
I am not made privy to that, apart from what we read in the newspaper.
All right, is there anything else you want to highlight?
Yes, in our submission, we make mention of the fact that the SASCOC board that is not been giving us full information, and there seems to be some disjuncture with the SASCOC board. And it clearly became evident even in the meeting that we had this weekend at SASCOC, where a member of the SASCOC board indicated that the SASCOC board is dysfunctional.
All right, anything else?
No.
Right, do you want to ask anything?
Mr. Reddy, who made the misrepresentation to Parliament?
I'm assuming it would have been the president of SASCOC that would have done the representation at the parliamentary hearing.
And how do you know that SASCOC has spent 6.4 million rand on the disciplinary?
It has been in newspapers.
Are you blaming SASCOC for the trial by media?
Yes,
Why?
because as internal matters, they should be handled by the HR department internally before sending out information to the media, and no input from any of the other people that were involved in that.
Do the media reports indicate that SASCOC had issued the statements to the media?
One of them that I have, yes,
Can we have a copy of that, please?
I will.
Give it to me.
Okay.
And a similar question in relation to the allegations of sexual harassment. Was that something that SASCOC had leaked?
Leaked or given to the media, I have that, that's on that,
It's in the media, but are you suggesting that it's SASCOC released that information to the
there
media?
is a quotation by the president of SASCOC in that media report, yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Bacher?
You're the first person here to, I'm not blaming you, to take sides on this dispute between SASCOC and the 3 members that were dismissed. I mean, what you've said here, you've backed one side, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Simple as that.
Yes, I think in my submission we even make mention
That's
of,
why you're coming today.
no, in my submission we make mention of the fact that volleyball has been implicated in it, and the former CEO of SASCOC was the former president of Volleyball South Africa. The former CFO from SASCOC, who's been suspended, is a current financial person from Volleyball South Africa.
My next question, you said the SASCOC board is not giving full information. What does that mean?
In terms of the information that they gave, if you look at the news report, it is just part of the information and not everything that we've heard after the fact of the inquiry.
When is a SASCOC board meeting? Explain to me. How often does that take in a year?
There's one AGM in a year and one general council meeting in a year.
That's it. Twice.
Yes.
Nothing more.
No.
Do you go to them?
Yes, I have been to them.
Are there minutes of those meetings?
Yes, they are.
How long do they take for you to receive?
Well, normally it is about 90 days before the next meeting.
And are they correct or fully put together?
They are put together, and we have the opportunity at the meeting to dispute the minutes
Is that in twice a year?
twice a year.
Thank you. So in other words, you say that volleyball, that SASCOC has not behaved correctly as far as volleyball is concerned.
Absolutely, yes.
In other words, the volleyball man has dropped the ball at SASCOC.
If you could say that, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now the next witness is a sensitive one. All right, thank you. We've had a representation about a witness called Desiree Varden. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly. And her evidence is somewhat sensitive, and I'm going to ask the room to be cleared so that she can give her evidence in private. So if everybody else who's not involved in this, if they could please leave the room. We'll call you back when her evidence is over. Where's her story? We've got it here somewhere.
We've got it here. It's quite a thick batch.
It's not in file 2, so it must be in file 3, I suppose.
Yeah, it's in file 3.